Well,
why is that even in the game?
They switched sides in the remake. So we are here. We are loaded in. Once again, I think we should be good to go on this one, ladies and gentlemen. In the bottom left, we have the blue Protoss player. He is GunGFuBanDa.
And spawning in the top right is the red Terran. Representing Team Liquid, it is Clem. I will always find GunGFu a very funny character. Did you see that clip of him playing Among Us?
No, I have not. Did he say the word sus, Ben? Is that what you're about to tell me?
No. Even so, this is
even worse than that.
Dude, it was so funny. So, like, just to make this a short story, him and Harstem are the imposters. They're killing people, right? And somebody suspects Harstem, and then GunGFu, with the defense of a lifetime, just says like, "It's not him, but it's me." And then everybody's like, "What?" So like, you're trying to defend this guy and saying it's you? And then everybody's like, "Well, of course it's these two now." And he gets both of them killed immediately. And it's like, yeah, that's just a funny GunGFuism right there. And also, like, when he played, or when he was getting ready to play Lambo, it was like, "Hey, GunGFu, are you like nervous going up against Lambo?" He's like, "Oh, I'm not nervous. I'm terrified." I just find him hilarious, man. He's a great character.
Always got to appreciate a little bit of the self-awareness that players can show, especially as we head into our spooky October. All the skeletons are going to be coming out of the closets, literally dancing around, and whatever else it is that Halloween represents wherever you're from. Engineering bay block out of Clem early on, seeing that gateway at the front of the natural for GunGFuBanDa, getting that preemptive sort of wall set up, but also if there was going to be a fast adept or a stalker, it would get to that natural a little bit quickly. But Clem, this is Ben, he's got his factory done as he starts the command center in his natural.
Yeah, Clem's been like doing this build a lot. I know there was a tournament recently. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was either Aces ROG or I think he did this against Parding at Aces ROG in a best of 5 or DreamHack finals actually. But yeah, he kept doing this, the gas first into some form of very fast factory and a later natural, which kind of puts you behind economically, unless you do a really sick eBay block and SCV block like this. But it kind of seems to be his go-to, which is unusual because a lot of Terrans don't go for this kind of stuff at all.
Yeah, this makes me think of the sort of like deep fried builds that we should eventually get to when there aren't those patches of the map changes, where Clem's like, you know what, I actually do have the time now to go through between these tournaments and really carve out some sort of different ways of playing, not even because it's necessarily better or more efficient on paper or in some sort of constrained mathematical scenario, but just because it's not the most common thing that everybody else is doing. It's going to force the adjustment out of the opponent player and put on a little bit of marine pressure with the cyclone so that the stalker can't just kite. I don't hate it. Let's see what he gets done. Locks on that stalker on the ramp. He does have the battery in the natural, but the Marines are going to walk beyond that wall and try to keep bringing this pressure up. We'll at least be able to see that robotics facility in the natural too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so far getting a few probes, that's more than you get otherwise, right? And the energy is totally gone in this shield battery. Does lock onto that stalker again, gets a few shots off, but I think GunGFu's actually handled this pretty well. And he didn't actually have to pop shield battery overcharge. That lives to, well, the energy's saved, right, for more chrono boosting of probes and what have you. But yeah, Clem definitely likes to play a game that makes the Protoss feel uncomfortable immediately. He doesn't like them to let them do whatever they want to do.
No, and I do like that. It's kind of thrown a weird sort of bit of chaos into this game because you're looking at it and the third Nexus is coming up now, but that natural was delayed a little bit. And then a couple of probes getting killed, just 3. It's like, okay, but on a 2-base setup, sometimes if the Terran doesn't get that pressure on early, you see a little soft supply block there as these pylons finish. If that pressure doesn't come in early, if the Protoss kind of gets the early map control, you see a lot of those chrono boosts go into the probes, and that's how you build that economy for the PvT. But it's actually pretty close in terms of total worker count, which I think's got to be feeling really good then for Clem. As you know, we talk about the mules there, they kind of bring you back even when the Protoss is up that 7 or 8 worker cushion that they would typically get off that gateway expand. But this time it wasn't quite that early gap, and I think Clem's got to be feeling really nice about the way this one started, but of course, there's still a lot of this game left.
Absolutely. I think one really nice thing for him is the fact that he got a couple of tanks out, and it's a Blink Stalker build. But GunGFu, he's not halting on anything, right? Like, this third base was pretty early, pretty decisive. He's going for charge. He's getting the Robo out as well. That's a nice observer snipe just to deny the scouting, because at some point, the question for GunGFu will be, is he going up to 4 or 5 barracks, or is he taking a third? And now, let's get another observer out, or at least get across the map to find out what's going on.
Yeah, probe waiting behind that mineral line. Wasn't sure if he was going to drop anything. There's this Robo Bay finishes. Charge coming through. The Colossus production begins. And Clem's got his +1. And he got that second barrack set up, I felt, reasonably quickly. The stim is done at 6 minutes. Going to go to check the towers. But to Muslim, nothing really crazy out of the setup overall. I guess we'd be expecting as these medevacs come out, Clem's going to try to make his move across the map. I like the Cyclone patrolling on the edge of the main base in case of a Prism backstab. Definitely one of those things you're always a bit concerned about when you move out. If this adept sees you and GunGFuBanDa's waiting with anything, that's typically when they're going to strike. So having something there is going to be better than, well, obviously nothing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, it's the way that Clem's gone about it is kind of like a weird 3-1 or 3-1-1 build, but kind of in a funky way. It was like a 1 barracks, 1 factory, 2nd barracks, then like the starport, then the 3rd barracks rather late. You end up with a fairly similar comp, but you just end up with an earlier tank, I suppose. And oh, GunGFu getting a bit of a jump on, and Clem caught off guard, but oh, that tank getting the extra shot off was actually a big deal. The Colossus does stay alive though. Wow, that was a bit scrappy on both sides.
A scary position to be in. I think the Colossus almost had a one-shot on a huge number of those Marines, and definitely, as you said, going in, almost getting the tank, and then pulling back just a little bit too early. Losing that sentry obviously hurts a lot. That Guardian Shield was probably what was going to allow him to push this away easily. But the Zealot count now, they're going to be a little bit more easy to take down as he doesn't have those upgrades. Double Forge is on the way, but +1 is done for Clem. So those Marines are going to be shredding those Zealots up close. And that's where those siege tanks you're talking about. Super important. Zone away the Colossus. And now Clem is getting ready to do Clem things, Benjamin. We've got a second force on the northwest of the map, checking the tower, making its way around. There is an observer conveniently flying over this at the exact moment that it arrives. So GunGFuBanDa has the information, but is he going to be able to react in time, as a medevac drop with 2 mines has also been split below the 3rd?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Like, Clem's very quick. We all know how fast he can be, and he's never going to do just one thing at a time. With a mine drop, I mean, GunGFu pretty fast to react, and decent splits as well. Doesn't take any economic damage, but yeah, another thing is happening here, and Clem's rushing for the natural. But GunGFu, he's looking pretty bulletproof at the moment.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Colossi up. He's feeling strong. 2 of them in the natural, completely shoves back that poke. The Widow Mine, as you said, he was able to peel the 1 probe. There was a decent clump up, but he wasn't able to get that target onto them, or perhaps reach them, maybe just barely. And now the Viking production is coming in for Clem. He's got to think about the next stage of this game, which is dealing with the Colossi. Of course, while he's here, it is going to keep GunGFu from doing anything aggressively for the most part. So he still wants to bring this pressure. He's got that low ground tank covering for these Marauders up top, but GunGFuBanDa is just going to collapse on this, goes for that low ground push as the rest of the army dives on a Colossus in the main. So this split force actually kind of not necessarily doing everything it needs to. Losing the tank hurts, but the Colossus is not a cheap loss either.
Oh, and Clem, look at this. Got reinforcements over on the right side. I mean, it's a real ragtag army here. The medevac just joining, but man, he's just tearing GunGFu apart at this point, and it feels like he's just running away with the game. A 40 supply lead now. These Widow Mines being a nuisance as well.
Yeah, and even those last couple of Widow Mines getting a decent amount of probes in that 3rd base during all of the chaos, and it comes on the heels of the 1-1 just now getting close to finishing, as he's kind of being forced to decide, okay, well, you're going to rebuild some of these probes that you've lost, right? You got to get the saturation back up. But he's going to add a couple gateways, gets the Dark Shrine. I think that's, you know, when we talk about situations where you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable as a Protoss, the Invisible Man with the Scythe, pretty useful weapon to have in your arsenal.
It's super good way of getting back into the game, and I like how he's done it too. He didn't go for like the other AoE option with like a Disruptor or a Storm. He was like, you know what, going to go for the DTs, and that single Cyclone over there, you talked about it earlier, does prevent that Warp Prism. So again, or rather, Clem just seems very, very on song this game.
Yeah, very crisp setup. fun build order to watch at the start of this too, with a decent bit of pressure. And GunGFuBanDa has just been trying to set himself up normally, but Clem has really thrown him off his cadence. The flow of this game is just different enough than what you would typically expect to see out of a TVP, that you don't quite know exactly what all the timings are going to be when the build order just gets changed up so much. We do finally get to see GunGFuBanDa strike back. Zealot run by in the third base. SCVs clumping up to run as 5 of them get picked off. Those Widow Mines actually could drag on the Zealots into that mineral line too. So he's got a lot of them very low. He's trying to drag the second shot, not quite able to get it. But 8 SCVs still not too shabby. The last thing you want to do is just let Clem sit, you know, completely safe on his side of the map while he bashes you to death with medevacs all over.
Oh, absolutely. I think GunGFu is actually striking back a little bit, and he does have a timing here where he's going to have 2-2 faster than his opponent. He's got the cannon set up as well for that south base. It is problematic that he's only on 3 bases and Clem is taking his 4th. Like, that's really bad for a Protoss. But if he stabilizes, and that's a big if, he will be okay to carry on. It's just Clem. He's not going to give him that time, it looks like.
That disruptor shot getting a little bit close to the army outside of that 4th base. Couple Widow Mines have been sprinkled around here. The armory is complete, so they will remain invisible until the cannon reveals them. He already knows about the High Templar. He has Ghost ready with this force. Vikings are going to get one of the Colossi on that north side. Guardian Shield's helping out a little bit. Decent EMP. You still have to be careful as another Purification Nova is going to come out. And if he goes through all that Ghost energy, well, there's not Storm. It hasn't been researched yet, the Muslims. So it's mostly just the Archons, that one Templar there, maybe looking for a feedback. It's gonna go up the ramp against this bio ball. The Zealot's getting shredded for the most part. Big fat EMP lands in the dead center, but a beautiful Purification Nova is gonna take a huge chunk of that out. I'm not sure there's enough meat left to protect the Colossus. Well, there is. He's gonna be able to push this force back. 30 supply gap right now, Benjamin. Things are heating up as GunGFuBanDa's army is outside the 4th of Clem now.
It really shows you the power of those 2-2 hitting when it did, because that allowed GunGFu to really strike back there. And yeah, Clem, he does spot this 4th base, and he's like, okay, there's no probes here. I'm in good shape. And that, by the way, that Widow Mine on the high ground's really funny. Like,
that's nasty.
That could be really cool. That one High Templar in the army, by the way, I think that really scared Clem. I think he was like, oh boy, is this guy gonna storm me? And he kept running away from it. Were those 2 DTs?
Might have been. He's had that shrine for a very long time. Widow Mine has 5 kills on top, by the way, on that little spot. So he's been getting value. The floating factory sees the warp prism chilling on the right side. So the Vikings are going to go get that. Observer placement, not bad though. GunGFu's one can see the whole army outside of where that in between the 3rd and 4th base is. So prism gets knocked down. And the observer sees the army's kind of moving towards that east side of the map. How will he respond?
Okay, 2-2 has finished up for Clem now, which is a big deal. Now they're on even upgrades. I really like Clem's tech path as well in TUP. He sticks to this a lot, where he gets very fast 1-1, but then prioritizes getting out units as opposed to the 2-2. So we get a lot of ghosts and what have you, and really get an army together to pressure his opponent. But then he'll just catch up on upgrades later on. So really trying to go for that tempo play.
And he's got the ghosts now, taking a little bit of a front poke towards that 4th base. Counterattack on the DT, but the missile turret's set up more than well enough. These Widow Mines will take out the Zealots. A lot of those SCVs are still very low, but Clem has not yet been broken on any of these bases. I think a few more Zealots are going in here again now that the mines are on cooldown. He's going to try and get as much disruption here as possible. The last thing you want to have to do is be looking at your army and back at your base for the defense when you're microing that bio ball. The Muslim, I think we all know, 1 or 2 of those Purification Novas can have a huge impact on the fight. I think if Clem missed that, if he had been able to get around that disruptor shot earlier, those 2 Colossi and 1 Immortal that were kind of just barely staving that army off would have been under a huge amount of pressure, as we have Liberators being built 4 at a time too. So once you get a bunch of those, especially with that fusion core and that advanced ballistics upgrade for the range, that's when the Protoss player, you really have to consider what you're going to do to get around that massive anti-ground air attack.
Oh yeah, definitely. And GunGFu takes a kind of decent defensive fight here. A few of these units are getting shaved off by Clem. And Clem, he's just playing a suffocating playstyle, right? Where he doesn't want to allow GunGFu to grow beyond this point, because Clem's as powerful as he's ever going to be, and he is microing damn good on both ends as well.
Yeah, nice kiting action on that right side. Of course, committing into that big fight and actually diving and trying to target those disruptors has incurs that huge risk. Your army's going to clump up. The Purification Nova could take out 20 supply in one shot. So you need to be incredibly deliberate with your movements. Siege these Liberators up, kind of leapfrog them towards the enemy, and try to bait that Protoss into running into those shots. And whether or not you see like that Stargate transition or something for the range just to deal with these Liberators, or if it's a big Stalker blink, you can't really just trade against the Liberators as the Protoss. You need to have something that can really commit to dealing with them, or they're going to completely zone out your whole army.
Oh yeah, definitely. GunGfu trying to get a few disruptor hits here. Does pick up a medevac with units in, and the disruptor shots actually, it's a pretty decent cleanup from GunGfu, all said and done. But he needs a few extra fights to go that way. Now Clem's caught up in upgrades, and GunGfu, he's trying to break out of this kind of hold, but it's so hard, man. It's so ridiculously hard. Clem's got such a good setup over here.
Yeah, how do you attack into this many Liberators with a ground army, right? At this point, blinking the Stalkers in, you're almost guaranteeing that they're all going to die because there's still Marauders here. You still have the Vikings too. So what exactly is the move? This base is kind of stuck. You have to go in at some point. There's the blink in, trying to find the soft spots in between the Liberator zones, but he's still taking some pretty big losses. Another disruptor gets picked off by the ground army as it is finally sent back. And these Liberators, as they unsiege, will get chased down a little bit. That's having the Widow Mines underneath is always nice. But you know what? His opportunities to get aggressive are also going to open up now a little bit. He's broken the siege. We have the blink done, Shadow Stride for the Dark Templars. So maybe there's a little bit of a way for him to find some more harassment room. I'm not sure, but he's about to build a Nexus right where this army is headed to Muslim.
Absolutely, and this is a Terran that's gone uncontested on his side of the map. That is not the way Protoss want to play this matchup. You want to be on the aggressive almost as soon as it hits late game, but Clem, he's just not allowed his opponent to flourish whatsoever. And here, these Liberators, +2 almost done, range almost done as well. I think that, and oh my god, a nuke as well. I didn't even see that being upgraded, but this is super cool play by Clem.
Clem's too fast for all of us, I think is a fair assertion to make. And if trying to pull the disruptors, I'm like, he's got to see this, right? Nope, all probes dead. There you go. 11 workers picked off. Nexus is going to be just a gentle shove, and it will collapse. GunGfu, they'll go in for the big counterattack. He's just going to push everything towards the production. But that's what you're talking about. The +2 on the Liberators is going to let them two-shot these Stalkers. So pushing through into this will incur huge losses. This isn't one of those, oh, plow through your army, have everything left over. It's largely the Immortals that are going to be left behind, the Disruptors. Well, I guess he's going to get through the production, but Clem's going to bring this army back, and I don't know that it can deal with everything here.
I think these Liberators are going to decimate this army, though. Like, look at that. That is freedom zones galore. That is a sad, sad Protoss army. And yeah, GG is called. Clem takes the first game, but I think it was actually a good showing by GunGfu, because it's really hard, like, to play looking like you're doing a good job against Clem, but he was holding on, and a lot of that was very difficult to do, especially given that I don't think any part of the game went super good for GunGfu. Like, Widow Mine connections were all really good and stuff, and yeah, I think Clem just played like a beast, man. It was like no mistakes from him, really.
I think any time where you have to pull probes in the game against Terran, you know, you're not in a comfortable place. No matter what happens, you say, okay, he came in, he had the battery, he only got 3, and maybe Clem delayed his command center a little bit too. But you're never going to feel comfortable when you have to do that. You're missing all that mining time, and you're really playing into what the strategy from the Terran is. And I think that's a cool adjustment to see out of Clem. You know, in previous seasons, we've seen his approach in TVP just be, you know, gig agreed into it. Just, okay, yeah, I'll play the late game. I'm good with Ghosts. I'm good with this. No, Clem's like, I'm going to bring the attack fast. I'm going to focus on getting my tech up as early as possible. And I'm not going to let you just comfortably go and take that third base, because, yeah, if he goes Nexus before Cybernetics Core, I don't know if the battery and Stalker are going to be there in time or well positioned enough to stop him from losing maybe a couple more workers. Maybe things fall apart a little bit faster. So I agree with you, though. He did a really good job weathering the storm, taking it as long as he could. But that's what Clem is really good at, is those fights and just being everywhere and stressing out the opponent to the nth degree.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that's one thing that's really impressive about Clem in particular, is that he plays Terran in a way that you kind of when you dream about playing Terran in the best possible way, like being in your opponent's face, microing all the time, just being aggressive, making it so difficult for your opponent, he does exactly that. And he really puts his mark, like his own twist on the matchup that is really hard to do. Because if you ask me, like, how is Clem going to play a TVP? He's going to go gas first, and he's going to be in your face in one way or another, be it like right from the get-go, the eBay block. He can do the Hellion drop as well, which he's really damn good at. He can do all this stuff as well, where it's kind of like this weird 2-1-1 in TVP, but it's like, who else does this stuff? Who else can do this stuff? It's just very, very difficult for Protosses to really get a handle on. And yeah, I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, you know, the other thing I was going to say, especially I love you bringing up that build order, is the flexibility of that, because he had the factory and he had the reactor on his barracks. He didn't have to do a 4-Marine Cyclone push like that. You know, if they hadn't built the wall with the core and the first gateway up front, maybe Clem would have just swapped the factory onto the reactor and gone for some Hellion play. I think that's got to be the biggest strength of Terran in the early game when you do these types of builds, is that you don't know 100% where they're going to go with it. It could have just been a factory swap for Hellions, could have been a Hellion run by, Hellion drop, Widow Mine drop. There's a whole lot of different things that you can throw in somebody's face. I think GunGFuBanDa was saying in the lobby that the hotkey stuff is still getting sorted out, so we'll be getting into that next game shortly, but we're not quite there yet. But otherwise, a good start for Clem. And I love seeing the engineering bay block, Ben. Just because as many arguments as you could make against it, it still forces the Protoss to do something about it. It still kind of throws the rhythm of the game off, and I think that makes it harder to get that read on when things should be coming towards your base.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the eBay block for a while, because you know when a new strat comes out, everybody does it, right? Like it's all the craze. And for a while, it was like, okay, engineering bay block, and then Protoss was like, okay, the best follow-up against this is probably Stargate, because then you get to kind of scout what's going on behind it, and it's good against any of the like one base all-ins. But then Terrans were like, okay, Hellion drop is the absolute best response after this, and it kind of evolved in its own little way. So because you think that Stargate is the best response, a lot of Terrans were like, okay, I'll go for like heavy Marines in this Cyclone push, which is what Clem went for. But yeah, it's nice to see this little mini game going on, like the real evolution of the matchup. But yeah, we're going to get right on into the second game here. And sporting over in the top right-hand side as the blue Protoss, it is GunGFuBanDa.
And his opponent in the Southwest, leading 1-0, he is Clem.
So I am curious to see what Clem's going to go for. It does look like he's going to go for a barracks first, which I haven't seen him do in a little bit of time in TV. Oh, is he? Okay, cool. For a second there, I was like, is he just stacking up minerals here and he's going to go for a CC first? I was a bit like, a bit surprised, but this is a far more normal build that he's doing this time.
And Probe is going to come in right and early and get the scout on this immediate. Of course, they don't actually prioritize the scout to Muslim. They prioritize poking your SCVs to throw you off and tilt you, which is generally quite successful against most Terran players because they hate having their SCVs poked, but gets a little bit of scouting in, gets out. And is this something that does it say anything to GunGFuBanDa that it's not a gas first? Does it matter a huge amount? What do you think is going to be changed up between this opening and the last game, just off the gas?
Okay, so like just off the gas, a much earlier expansion, not a super fast factory. I do like the fact that GunGfu attacked the SCV, but then was like, you know what, I'm going to scout as well. A lot of Protosses will not do that and then can get super bamboozled if you've made a second gas and stuff, but GunGfu was very clinical about just being like, all right, that's going on. The build that Clem's doing now, there are so many follow-ups. Like if I was to just kind of throw darts at a dartboard with like random strats on it, could be any one of them. This could be a 3-Rax, it could be a 3CC. Right now, GunGfu is going to have no idea, which is why he's going to keep this probe around and try and get a second scout to see exactly what's going on. Also, just be a factory.
All right, yeah, I like that, and that's I think what you have to be bringing that scout in early for, because you need to know, or you need to have some idea of which way it's going to go if it is that fast second barracks, because we know that Clem can bring it out both ways. I think it's also fair to say on Oxide, this is a map that's kind of notorious for those choke points, and especially around that third, the low ground valley outside the natural. We've seen a million games on this map end with big sieges outside that natural expansion, either with bunkers and tanks or liberators and whatnot. So it's definitely one of those maps that kind of makes you consider, how much harder it could be to hold off some of those attacks, I think, than some of the other ones.
Yeah, definitely. When I've been playing TvP myself quite a bit, I go through these phases where I'm like, all right, I hate getting bullied. How can I prevent that from happening? And very often it's like, okay, I'm going to be aggressive. And I feel that Clem definitely channels that way better than I ever could, but I feel he's on the same boat here. Like this single Hellion that he's getting, maybe it's going to be 2 or 3 Hellions to fly through the front. Maybe he wants to do a Hellion drop into the main of GunGFu. But you can definitely feel that he is fed up of Protosses having their wicked way with him, and he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna have my way with you. Which again, I just like his own little twist on the game that he has, and that starport being out there, maybe it is just going to be for Hellions, I'm not sure, but he is going to go for the 3 here, which is a magic number to one-shot probes, and he's going to go for the 2 barracks back at home as well.
Yep, and we're gonna have a quick pause here, just making sure everything is okay, latency-wise, etc. But I agree with you. When you're in a situation where you're not sure exactly how you would deal with certain types of attacks, sometimes you can just be like, okay, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to do something that forces the other person to respond. Worst case scenario, they attack me too. We get into some really weird, scrappy game. But if you practice these builds, if you do this a lot, then it's not necessarily a situation that you don't have any preparation for either. And of course, the best case scenario, Protoss players doing a normal standard build, doesn't have enough to defend it, loses a couple more probes than you would want, and well, then you have to go back to the classroom with Mr. Pear and Apple there with the Muslim.
I really like Mr. Pencil over here, honestly. He's awesome, but I love GunGFu, dude. He's like, lag, but then immediately types go question mark, and then Clem's like, go. The guy starts counting down, the referee, and then he's like, 500 ping sec. It's like GunGFu just the way he communicates is just so hilarious to me, man. He's a baller, man. He's a proper Chad.
I can't, I'm realizing that the Pencil's wearing glasses, but he doesn't have ears. And I don't really know how they're being held up, and it's bothering me a little bit. So
I'll teach you something, Nathanius. My glasses. Hold on.
I'm about to be enlightened.
They don't need ears.
Oh my God. Are you sure that doesn't hurt?
Actually, I'm getting new glasses because, yes, they're far too tight and they cause a crease in my face.
Thank you for that.
But
off to a great start today.
Absolutely.
It's fun to be back.
Yeah, me and Pencil, bro, we share the same problem. Too tight glasses. Oh, did you see this little guy? He's super cool.
Oh, he's kind of staring. I feel like if we draw attention to him, he's going to show up at night outside my window. So,
I mean, it's pretty weird, honestly. Like he wiggles a bit too.
He's creepy. Yeah, he's not moving a whole lot. I don't know about that one.
This is your definition of time buying, guys at home. We are just waiting on GunGFu to make sure that his ping stops a little bit. And then it's like, GunGFu, if you stop downloading, he's like, oh, does that cause problems with ping? And it's like, yes, GunGFu, yes, it does. And he's like, let's try.
You cannot install your entire Steam library while playing a competitive StarCraft match, ladies and gentlemen. It's not recommended. But I do believe that the game is moving again, so we'll be getting back into this in just a second. And as you were saying, Benjamin, we were seeing that second barrack start up. And I love the way that you put it. It's kind of like he goes for this 1-1-1. He's got this proxy starport. But we're still going to see that transition come in at a pretty crisp timing well before he's thinking about a third base.
Yeah, very funny, like how he does it, because it's almost not necessary having that starport on the map. But yeah, we're going to see what he can do with it, because if there's anybody that I really think of doing Hellion drops better than anybody else in this matchup, it is Clem. And right now he's going to get into the main base. There's nothing so far. GunGFu was pretty quick to probe pull, honestly, but damage is only just beginning.
Oh, it's just brutal. 5 probes killed. The Hellion still a large amount of hit points left. Hooping over to the natural and just forcing these workers to run around so much too. A lot of lost mining time. Shield battery will not save you from 3 Hellions lining up those probes, and he's going to fly back over towards this third. I was going to say there is a probe here too. Could end up delaying that third base if you wanted to pick that one off. He will not be. He's gonna have to send another one over. So 11 workers total. That first shove, Benjamin feeling pretty good for Clem here, as that's a tremendous amount of economy to lose early on for GunGfu.
Like, who else does this, man? Who else does this? I tell you, like, Clem's TVP. I know a lot of people go like, oh yeah, he's got really good TVC, but you know, his other matchups suck and stuff. It's not that at all. It's just TVP can really come down to like stylistic clashes and stuff. But when the Protoss kind of takes the submissive role, which GunGfu's doing a bit here, he's not doing like, you know, Oracle and whatever. This is a really nice catch by him though. Because like, yeah, you can see Clem's face. He's like, damn it. Like that's actually quite a big deal. But yeah, it's definitely tough when you play against Clem when he's just doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, just that speed. You know, they say that when you move that fast, things around you look slow, but of course you get a similar feeling when you're on the other side of it. A similar feeling of you could almost say helplessness when someone's able to just move around you in such a way that no matter what you do, you just feel like you can't quite get your hands around it. Right, trying to catch smoke in your hands, it just doesn't. It's not really doable. And even though there is this choke point, Clem was trying to move through it a little bit. So GunGfu's like, all right, I'll poke you back. I'll kind of call you a little on this. And that third command center is being built on location. The observer has full vision over that place between the main and the natural.
GunGfu's movement around the map has been really good, by the way. Like catching that Hellion drop on the left side with the 2. And then just knowing when he's getting attacked here as well, just sussing out like, hey, you've got less units there than you had like literally 3 seconds before. I'm gonna, like, you're doing something. So he's definitely reacting pretty decently considering the start of the game wasn't the best at all for him.
And he's got the third setup, but this aren't. Yeah, I was gonna say the army's getting here as he had a decent amount of his defensive forces in that main base. Widowmine sieging up on the ramp, and that's kind of the awkward part is you have to be really careful about what's on that high ground because you have to go up a ramp to get to your own third base. So the tank being here is going to give a little bit of that protection, that zoning. There is the Colossus with the 2 medevacs, and he's focusing on the drop back in the main base again. Gets the Colossus. Widowmine's able to burrow, cleans up just about everything that's here with 16 probes dead. GunGfu's going to tap out, and Clem crushing through for the 2-0.